Hello and welcome back to Chapter 5, lecture number 24. We continue with a quick review of the building and making some small attachments to improve the looks. So I ask you to finish all the materials. So if you click on the core of the building, you can see all the materials and you need to tweak them. So that's what I did. I continued with adding all the specular maps, the roughness maps, and please watch very carefully that you pick all the textures. So don't forget to to keep one blank, because it will really harm the looks if you have a very specular wall or something and you forget to update it. So click on all the objects you created and if it looks all right. So I watched this building and I thought that the rear could have a little upgrade. So if you look at the brown bricks, you can see plaster in combination with brown bricks, but there is not a sort of a ceiling, as you can see here on the plaster. So what I like to do is click the core, brown brick, and I like to use this wood to apply a texture. So how that works, we already have the UVs. These are blank. What is important that if we click on the plaster, that we check this is the wood and it is using the Blink 9 transparent. So if we click on brown brick, we going to do that as well and add an input UV map and an image texture with a color, data and wood, and wood 9 transparent in the transparent layer, Blink 9 transparent, that should work. Then we need to duplicate mix node and we put the color information into the bottom and the alpha value, because it's a transparent image, it's going to be right there. So this should work. And now we need to set the UVs on the right place. So I prefer to work in a face mode. And then we click on wood. That will mesh up the looks, but no worries. Just need to select these. Then we go to the UV image editor. So if we had trends and we scale it and drag this to the left, it's rotated. Scale this a bit more. You want a very small plank on the left. And maybe make it a bit wider. Don't make it too wide because it will use the others. And we go back to UV map. You can see this is a nice looking bar, like it's a fundament of the building. But there is a little piece right there that needs to be tweaked. Okay, we need to do this on the right as well. So select these and we drag this on top, scale it, and that's the UV. That's one of the mistakes you can make. Please click wood, and now we select these, and now we can scale. It happens, so don't worry if that happens to you. It's can be a bit complicated. And we switch back to UV map, and now is a nice sample of when you forget to select the bevel. So let's go for a selection. Yes. Okay, check if none of the other faces are selected. Okay, and then we go to the rear view. Yeah, we'll go one more to the right. Project from view. We just made a new projection. And now we scale this, rotate it. Yes, material view. And there we go. We go back to UV map. That should work way better. And now there is no seam of a plaster, a line on the bevel. All right, so I like this improvement, and as I said, this little piece right there needs to have the, what was it called? That one as well. It needs a UV sandstone ceiling. Go back to the rear and make a projection. So we have these two ends, and it was sandstone stroke, sandstone stroke. We scale them a bit, SY, SY, and assign it. Okay. Good. So we upgraded the rear, and what we can do to finalize it is add more leaking effects. So I will do one sample, and then you can continue. And leaking works perfect on these ends of the ceiling. So you put one on top, and one there, and one on the bottom of the ceiling. Don't add too much leaking, because that will ruin the looks, but just a little bit. So it's visible, but not in your face. So this is already pretty in your face, but it makes clear that there is leaking. So yeah, try it. So we do one together, and then you continue. So this is Planks 9, and we do exactly the same as we did with the rear. We just make a selection, and there's no need to add the bevel. Okay, we go to leaking and node editor. So we're now in the setup of the wood, but this one has no leaking texture yet. So we duplicate one, we add a UV map, and put that one in the vector, and we click leaking, and we duplicate the mix node. Hope you can still follow everything. If you have questions, just ask me. Notes can be a pain. Okay, we go to the UV image editor, just press leaking top bottom. The reason I call this top bottom, this has more leaking than the bottom. So I use this one for these sides and that one for the top. Because it's a little bit strange effect to have these drip effects on the bottom. This is more smooth. So what we need to do is rotate this 180 degrees, and we put this one right there. And you won't see any leaking there, and that's because when you go to the node editor, we're still using for leaking the plank image. So it's good to where is it? To change this image. Well, I'm not clicking on the wrong ones. That one is the texture we need, and the texture of leaking is already visible. UV image editor. I rotated this this UV, but that wasn't necessary. As why? We need to make it smaller and drag this. Okay, there's a very small effect, so decide how much you want. I think this is looking great, so go to the node editor and make it smooth by adding soft light. Okay, and another thing you can do, because this is still a little bit too much, is add a color mix RGB, putting it right there, and it's more smoother now. If you go to the UV map, it looks like this. So that's how leaking works. And you can add more or less by hitting this slider. It's amazing. All right, so now you can, it's a little bit laggy because this building using a lot of textures. Now it's up to you to put some leaking right there and here, and be careful with don't adding too much leaking effect. Yes? All right, so I will pause the video and see you in a minute. All right, I added the leaking on all the sides, and this is the result. Also added the leaking on the bottom of the building, or else it looks really weird if it's standing on the ground. There's always a sort of dirty effect on the bottom. So keep in mind to add it on this area as well. So this went very well. In the next lecture, I'd like to spend some time on the chimney, because this building needs a chimney as well. And if you look at the reference, there is, whoa, it's hidden. There is none visible, but I like to add one on the left side. So that's one more challenge in the next lecture. And that will be it. And for people who like to go more in depth, there will be bonus lectures, as I mentioned before. So stay tuned. Bye bye.